Razabani for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to have with me this Sunday afternoon, my man, Mr. Sam Jones. Sam, how are we doing, first of all?
Good, mate. Good, mate. Very good. How's yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Been a long night. Obviously, Andy Ruiz fought as well last night, so was up.
I didn't watch that. I didn't actually watch that, but I've seen some of the clips back of it.
A fight that you must have watched was last night's card, Matchroom, Derek Chisora, Joseph Parker. What an exciting first 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a slip, but it was a good shot landed. But yeah, it was a good fight. It was a very, very good fight. I enjoyed it.
What was your instant reaction when Joseph went down? It seemed like he may have got caught slightly on the back.
Oh, just cold. Just got caught cold, didn't he? But Joe Parker's always displayed a good chin, so I thought he'll be fine. It just to, I said to you on our interview the other day, didn't I, that Derek's going to come out like a bull in a china shop, and that's exactly what he did. What
did you make of both fighters' tactics as the fight progressed? Obviously, we spoke about, like you said, Chisora was going to come forward and just be aggressive. But did you expect Joe to kind of take over much more in the latter rounds?
Do you know what, right? I'll be honest with you. I was a little bit disappointed in Joe Parker's performance because I thought in bursts, Joe Parker was. I mean, I had him winning the fight. Like he outboxed Derek. I had him winning by a round. But it was if Derek would have got the decision, then no problem with that either, because it's kind of what you like. But I watched it twice now, being the boring human that I am. But I like to watch things twice, especially when I'm not 100% on it, because I'll score it as I'm going. And it was difficult to score at times, but I've watched it again. I've scored it exactly the same. I had Joe Parker by a round. But going back to what I was saying, I was just a bit disappointed that Joe Parker didn't really go through the gears, which he has got the ability. But this is the problem that Joe's had over the last couple of years. He's not put in a convincing display for let's be honest, a long time. So yeah, I thought Joe Parker. I think I can't remember what round it was, but he had Derek hurt. I thought, step on the gas, and you possibly get him out of there. But look, Derek, he brings heat, doesn't he? Like fair play to Derek Chisora. I mean, sometimes he can go missing, but his last few fights, he's emptied the tank. And I don't know how old he is. I think he's 37 years old. Like how much more can he go on for? But I don't know. Great display from Derek Chisora. And if people think he won, then no problem. I've got no problem with that. But me personally, I've watched it twice now, and I think Joe Parker, I've scored it the same.
I remember after the Joshua fight when Joe fought him, Kevin Barry said when Joe came back in the corner after the fight had ended, it seemed like Joe had another couple more rounds still left in him. He didn't empty the gas. Is that something that he needs to address and hopefully work on with Andy Lee?
I just thought that, come on, like you need a big performance, because he was lackluster against Junior for. I thought, and listen, believe me when I say I know Joe Parker personally, but I'm just saying it how it is, because I know him to speak to. I don't just see it. I've speak to Joe many times. I spent a lot of time with him, especially when Guido was in Vegas training with Kevin Barry. But I'm just being real. Like Joe's he was a former world heavyweight champion, but he's only 29. So I think Andy Lee will bring the best out of him. And he needs another camp. So I think he only got 6 to 8 weeks with Andy Lee. So fair enough. And listen, this is Derek Chisora. Even though he's in the twilight of his career, he's probably having the best time of his moments of his career at the moment. I mean, Derek always brings value, but for me, from what I saw, I thought he fell short. I did think he lost. But listen, Derek's not going to retire, is he? Derek's probably going to headline another pay-per-view show after again. So they're not, as Derek said, he's like Voldemort, isn't he? They can't get rid of him.
Derek was obviously very upset after the fight, and he referred back to the Usyk fight, and he said, "Look, I've been robbed twice.
He never ever beat Usyk.
I've been robbed twice." You saw a video. I don't know if you saw Dylan White put out and said Derek Chisora was robbed. Was it a robbery?
How can listen, right? I'm trying to think of. I mean, a robbery is, for example, CJ Ross scoring Mayweather Canelo a draw. For me, that there is like. I don't want to go into this because I'll start getting into trouble again. But I don't want to get into trouble, so I won't talk about scoring. But it was a close fight. Close fights can't be. It can't be a robbery. So no, I don't believe so as well. I believe the right man got the nod. It's a subjective sport as we keep saying. But for me, I thought Parker picked him. I mean, I'll go into the Jonas Katie Taylor thing again, and I'll explain my things for that. But no, I thought the right man got the nod, and they'll probably have a rematch, and there'll probably be another pay-per-view show.
I was going to ask, would you like to see a rematch? Obviously, Chisora said, let's do it on the Fury Joshua undercard. Parker said, I'll give you the rematch, no problem.
Me personally, no, I don't want to see a rematch. If I want to see Joe Parker fight someone else, and I'd like to see it because Derek's not going to retire, so I'd like to see Derek fight somebody else. So for me, mate, no, not really. I don't really want to see that again.
Well, we look forward to see what Derek decides to do. Sam, a fight that everyone thought should have been the main event, but was the chief support. The ladies, Katie Taylor and Natasha Jonas, an unbelievable fight.
Yeah, whoever watched that fight should say, I said before the fight, that should be the main event anyway, because, I mean, I watched it last night and I got a lot of stick for it, but I thought it was a draw when I watched it. I watched it back again, and I've got Katie Taylor winning by a round. I messaged Natasha this morning saying, listen, well done and everything. This is how I got it last night. I said I had it a draw last night, but I have watched it back, and I thought Katie Taylor did enough to win. Katie Taylor's amazing, right? Anybody that's male, female, she's just a role model. Like Freddie, that's how a sportswoman should be. Like she's absolutely incredible. What she's done for women's boxing. But women's boxing aside, that was just a good fight for boxing last night. Both of them absolutely incredible. And the only bad thing about last night was that there was no crowd there, because can you imagine the amount of Irish and Scousers that would have been? It would have been packed full of Irish and Scousers. That fight needs to be run back with a crowd. That's what I would like to see, because the pair of them didn't. They should have had a crowd roaring them in that 12th round, because that 12th round was unbelievable. Honestly, I was standing up watching. I couldn't believe how good it was last night. And fair play to both of them. And I just think it would be a bit of a travesty if Natasha Jonas went out of boxing and didn't win a world title, because I think, my God, I thought she was very unlucky against Terry Harper. I thought she beat Terry Harper personally. But again, people saw that different ways. But last night, I thought Katie Taylor edged her last night. And look, Katie Taylor, the story of Katie Taylor goes on, doesn't it? She's absolutely incredible. And hopefully Natasha comes back and they can run it back with a crowd.
Eubank Jr. back in England after 2 years out of the ring, or almost 2 years out of the ring. He could have taken out Morrison in that second round, but it seemed like he just wanted to well, he said at the end, didn't he? He wanted the rounds, getting Morrison out in 2 rounds. He wouldn't have been able to showcase or practice what he had learned in the gym with Roy Jones for the last year and a half.
I don't agree with fighters getting the rounds in. Like, if you it's disrespectful to your opponent as well. Like I thought Marcus Morrison was very brave. I thought he lacked a little bit of self-belief at times, because he's a good fighter, Marcus Morrison. Like, he really is. He showed this, but every time Eubank wanted to trade, Marcus Morrison was like trading. But I thought a bit more self-belief, and he would have probably done better. But Eubank didn't impress me yesterday, if I'm really honest with you. I thought at times. And I'm a Eubank Jr. fan. I like him. I think he's good for boxing. I think he's the posturing, the showmanship. I think he's great, Eubank. But you can't try and be Roy Jones Jr. because there's only one Roy Jones Jr. And at his peak, he was possibly, arguably, the best fighter I've ever seen in my life, Roy Jones Jr. So you can't imitate Roy Jones Jr. Impossible task. I think Eubank, being his normal Eubank self, could have won that fight relatively early, but he was kind of going through the gears. I was unimpressed with that performance. I thought, not for me. That wasn't for me. Hopefully, he gets a big fight, and I'd like to see him, even against Andrade. That would be a good fight to watch. Let's see what happens. But no, mate, I wasn't impressed with him yesterday. I wasn't impressed with Eubank Jr. yesterday, if I'm totally honest.
Let's go back to some scoring, Sam. A lot of controversy on Twitter, people disagreeing. Bivol and Richards, I saw Sky card was quite wide. They were close rounds, but I think what Matt Macklin was saying was Richards wasn't doing enough to win the round. I know his trainer, Peter, obviously went out on Twitter and had a little go at Sky Cars. But how did you see that fight? Was it fair?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit wide, but Craig was in the fight. Craig was in the fight. Like that fight, I had Bivol winning the fight, but not by a lot. What Craig's displayed there is he's a top level fighter. Let's make no mistake about it. I think I actually said this to Eddie. I saw Craig Richards box when he boxed Chad Sugden at York Hall. He kind of stunk the place out a little bit. Like it wasn't like not stunk the place out, but it was not a very good performance. But the better the opponent, some fighters are like this. The better the opponent, the better it brings out of them, and that's top fighter men. That's, you know what I mean. It's top level mentality, and I think what he did to Shakan Pitters showed that Craig Richards can do something. It can do something very good in boxing. Like he's a top level operator, and last night this showed that. Craig Richards is he's a world level fighter. I think he displayed that yesterday. It's not going to do his stock any harm, and credit to Peter Sims and Craig. They've obviously worked very hard in the gym together, and the performance reflected that.
You put Richards now in that mix of Lyndon Arthur, Johnson, Boatsi, Yard.
Listen, Craig Richards against Joshua Boatsi has to happen, in my opinion. That's a great fight. That is a really great fight. And as I say, maybe Joshua would be the slight favourite, but there's not a lot in that. That's a great fight. I'd love to see that fight.
So about your man, he took obviously jumped on the show with just a week's notice.
Yes.
So good to get out and get the victory.
Yeah, listen, I was very proud of Johnny yesterday. Listen, he's had a week notice for that fight. And Phil Williams, you're not looking good against Phil Williams. You're just not. But we're not in the position when on a week's notice to turn down an opponent or to get someone for him to look better. Johnny looked a bit. If I didn't know Johnny yesterday and I was critiquing that performance, I think a bit one-dimensional, bit trigger happy with the right hand, and should have mixed his work up. Which, believe me when I tell you, you don't be Joe Joyce's lead sparring partner for Daniel Dubois if you're just one-dimensional. Johnny's got all the tools in the book. Trust me on that. And listen, he stopped a guy who doesn't really get stopped very much. I mean, Adelaide, when he fought him, should it have really been a stoppage? I don't really know. He was out on his feet yesterday with Johnny. Johnny just relentlessly went through him. But like what I said to Johnny, get all this, let's get the rounds in. Just listen, if you've got a chance to get somebody out of there, get them out of there. But fair. Honestly, I'm so super proud of Johnny, and he'll be back out again in July, and hopefully he'll display his full skill set, because he's got it all. Johnny, trust me, he really has. I mean, you live down south, don't you? Come and watch him spar, and you can see for yourself when he spars top level guys.
No, absolutely. Let's revert back to Friday night, Frank Warren show. Mick Conlan, good to see him back out and get the victory as well.
Yeah. Listen, I was upset with the commentary against Mick Conlan. Not against Mick Conlan, but I thought that they weren't talking what the positives he was doing. Like in boxing, right? And I'm not talking as if, I'm an expert, but you can have a competitive fight, but it be one-sided. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like a boss who was in the ring. Mick Conlan lost a few rounds, 4 rounds maximum, from what I watch here, maximum, yeah? And the commentators were talking as if, like, I think Richie Woodall had a draw. It was just not, it wasn't, in my opinion, from what I watched, it just wasn't. I thought, it was like he was in the home corner, but the commentary weren't talking about him as if he was in the home corner. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't like a Frank Warren fighter, and for me, it kind of showed. I wasn't impressed with and I like Richie Woodall, really respect him in the game, but I wasn't happy with his commentary towards Mick. Jim Rawlin was okay, but the pair of them, I wasn't impressed with it, if I'm honest with you. But I didn't think they give Mick enough credit for dealing with an hard bastard. Do you know what I mean? It's what he was. That Inuit. He would cause problems to anybody. And Mick Conlan's legs, some of the things he was doing in there was really special. It wasn't a complete performance. You know what I mean? And the tactics. I mean, Boo's tactics in the corners. Mick was following to a T. All that. wasn't happening is what was meant to happen is the fella was meant to fall over. You understand? And that never happened. And Mick found a way to win. I was honestly really impressed with Mick Conlan. He didn't get the credit he deserved in what was a very, very tough fight. I mean, that guy's coming off 2 big wins, like smashed on some big knockout wins, and some of the crisp body punching Mick was doing was absolutely unbelievable. But listen, that's just my opinion. I just thought I wasn't impressed with the commentary towards Mick on Friday night. And Sonny Edwards, we'll talk about him. It's one of the best performances, world title winning performances you're gonna see, isn't it? In a British ring, it was flawless. Like Sonny's very open. Like, I'm not gonna stand and mix it with him, so I'd have been knocked out. So I had Sonny Edwards winning 11 out of the 12 rounds. Absolutely brilliant. He was flawless.
I was going to come on to Sonny, but what a masterclass of professional performance from Sonny. Really showed maturity in the whole fight throughout the 12 rounds.
Yeah, I picked him to win. I look at Sonny and just think, my God, he's so confident, and I've seen him box live a few times. So his leg, his feet, his the way, his ability to punch when he's walking backwards, like not many people can do it. He's arguably got the best skill set in the UK, hasn't he? Out of pound for pound, out of all of the UK fighters, he's probably got arguably the best skill set. It's not going to be for everybody. Like some people watch that and think, no, it's a bit boring. Like it's not getting into it, but it's the art of boxing: hit and don't get hit. And I thought Sonny was absolutely outstanding, and fair play to him. And I hope he goes on to dominate the smaller weights and the fly, super fly, and I'm sure he'll go on to win more world titles. I'd love to see him against Martinez, by the way. What a fight.
That will be a great fight, but that'd be another Mexican.
Yeah, because listen, if anybody rings me from Mexico trying to get their fighters against my fighters, I'll flipping divert their calls.
I'll end with this, and I did ask you this during the week, but obviously there have been some movements from Team AJ and Fury. Mm-hmm. Frank has said he has now received a kind of contract which includes a site deal, etc. Eddie said both sides are now going through those contracts, and Eddie hopefully wants to make an announcement this week, which makes it likely that Usyk Joyce can then move forward and a deal can be finally reached as well on that side.
Yeah, I looked at Usyk's Instagram story this morning, and his managed promoter, Aegis Kilmas, who's, I think he's only got one fight left with Usyk, so he's desperate for it not to be Joe Joyce that Usyk's fighting. I mean, desperate. He's clinging on like a little clag nut. Is Aegis Kilmas, like desperation into not fight Joe Joyce. Like he's posted World Boxing News says the fight's off. Listen, Eddie says the fight's on. Frank's even said the fight is looking like it's on. Both boys are in training camp. Let's hope this massive fight, not just for the fact I want Joe Joyce to fight Usyk. I want to watch AJ Fury as a boxing fan, and that fight needs to happen. And then we'll get on the Joe Joyce against Usyk, which is a huge fight in its own right.
Sam Jones, IFL TV, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.
Go!